When I arrived home, I expected shock. I expected gasps. I expected my wife, Marsha, to run into my arms, tears in her eyes, whispering that she had waited for me. But instead, she screamed, as if she had seen a ghost. And for a moment, I didn't understand. Then I looked around. The house was different. The furniture, the decor. Nothing was the same. The photos of me and Marsha that once covered the walls? Gone. Replaced. With another man. A man wearing my clothes. A man sitting at my table. A man holding my wife. Who are you? I heard myself say. The man didn't answer. But Marsha did. Her lips trembled. Her eyes darted around wildly as if searching for a way out, and then she ran. She grabbed the man's arm, yanking him back, shielding him like I was some kind of threat. This isn't possible. Her voice was barely above a whisper. You're supposed to be dead. Dead? What was she talking about? For 4 years I had been locked inside a mental hospital, trapped, forgotten, abandoned, because of her. She told everyone I was unstable. She told them I needed help. She signed the papers that locked me away, and now, standing in the home I built, staring at the woman I once loved, I realized the truth. She hadn't just moved on, she had erased me. 4 years ago, I was a respected businessman, a devoted husband, and a man who thought he had everything. My name is William, and I used to believe in love. I used to believe in Marsha. We met in our mid-20s when I was still struggling to build my company. Back then, I wasn't rich, I wasn't successful, but I had dreams. And Marsha? She made me believe she was a part of them. She was beautiful, elegant, graceful, the kind of woman who could walk into any room and command attention without saying a word. She had a way of making people trust her, of wrapping them around her little finger with nothing but a smile. I was no exception. William, you're going to be great one day, she whispered to me on our wedding night, her fingers tracing soft circles against my chest. And I'll be right by your side, always. I believed her. God, I believed her. Success didn't come easy, but I worked day and night to make something of myself. I built my company from the ground up. Deals, late-night meetings, endless sacrifices, and, through it all, Marsha was there. She played the role of the perfect wife, supporting me when I was exhausted, attending business events with a proud smile, whispering words of encouragement when I doubted myself. We're a team, William, she used to say. Your success is my success. And I believed that too. I thought we were happy. I thought she was proud of me, but I was wrong. It started subtly. The way Marsha's smiles began to feel more rehearsed than real. The way she would glance at her phone during dinner, always texting someone. The way she stopped asking about my day as if she was slowly checking out of our life. Work is just stressful, she told me when I asked about her distant behavior. I didn't question it. I didn't push, because I trusted her. I didn't know then that trust was the biggest mistake of my life. One evening, I came home late after an important business meeting. The house was dark and silent, except for the soft glow coming from the living room. Marsha was sitting on the couch, her face pale, her hands trembling. William, we need to talk, she said, her voice unusually soft. I sat down beside her, concerned. What's wrong? She hesitated. Then she took a deep breath and whispered, It's you, William. Something isn't right with you. I frowned. What do you mean? You've changed, she continued, her voice shaking. You're not yourself anymore. You've been stressed, paranoid, forgetful. I think you need help. Confusion settled over me like a fog. Marsha, I'm fine. I've been working a lot, but that's normal. No, William, she cut me off, her eyes glistening with fake concern. You're not fine, and I can't just stand by and watch you suffer. She reached into her purse and pulled out a stack of legal papers. My heart stopped. A psychiatric commitment order, with my signature on it, except I had never signed anything. Marsha, what is this? I whispered. Her lips trembled. I had to do it, William. It's for your own good. I felt my blood run cold. This wasn't concern. This wasn't love. This was a trap. The next thing I knew, men in white coats were dragging me out of my house. I fought. I screamed. I begged for someone to believe me. But Marsha? She stood at the doorway, tears rolling down her cheeks, playing the role of the grieving, helpless wife. Take care of him, she whispered to the doctors. Please. I was drugged, restrained, labeled as delusional, and just like that, I was erased. For the next 4 years, I lived inside the walls of a mental hospital. Every day, I told the doctors the truth. Every day, I begged for someone to listen. Every day, I swore I wasn't insane, but no one believed me, because my beloved wife had already written the story. To the world, I was gone. To the world, I was dead, and she made sure of it. I don't know how long I would have rotted inside that place if it hadn't been for one mistake. A new doctor. Someone who actually listened to me. Someone who saw the holes in my case, and one day, just like that, I was free. But the world I stepped into was not the one I left behind. My company? Gone. My reputation? Destroyed. My wife? Living in my house? With another man. And now, standing at the doorway of my old home, watching Marsha scream in horror at the sight of me, I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't coming back for love. I was coming back for revenge. I stood at the doorstep of my own home, staring at the woman who ruined me. Marsha's face turned pale, her lips slightly parted, her eyes wide with disbelief. This isn't possible, she whispered, gripping the sleeve of the man beside her. A man wearing my clothes, sitting at my table, living in my house. And then she ran. She grabbed the man's hand and yanked him back, shielding him like I was some kind of intruder. You're supposed to be dead, she finally screamed. I felt something snap inside me. Dead? She told everyone I was dead? I took a slow step forward, my voice calm but ice cold. What did you just say? She shook her head rapidly, her body trembling. No. This is a mistake, she whispered. You can't be here, William. You were sick. They said you... She stopped herself, realizing too late that she had already revealed too much, and that was all the confirmation I needed. She had lied. She had locked me away. She had buried me. And now, she was terrified that I had crawled out of my grave. The stranger in my house finally spoke. Marsha, who is this? His voice was sharp, suspicious. He was tall, about my height, with an expensive watch on his wrist. My watch. He looked at me like I was nothing but a ghost, like I was an inconvenience, and that pissed me off more than anything. I clenched my fists. That's a good question. I turned my gaze back to Marsha. Why don't you tell him, sweetheart? Tell him who I am. Her breath hitched. I watched as panic flickered across her face. She was cornered. If she admitted the truth, she would have to explain why she lied. If she denied it, she risked exposure. For the first time, Marsha was out of control. William, she swallowed hard. You need to leave. We can talk about this later. I chuckled, cold, amused. Oh, I don't think so. I stepped past the threshold, into the home that was stolen from me. Neither of them stopped me, because they knew they had no right to. I walked through the house, my footsteps slow and deliberate. The place had changed. The furniture was different. The walls were painted over. All traces of me had been erased, like I had never existed. And then I saw it, a framed wedding photo. Marsha and him married legally, like I had never been her husband at all. I turned to her, my heart pounding. You married him? She didn't respond. Her silence was my answer. My blood ran cold. So, let me get this straight, I said, my voice eerily calm. You locked me away. Told the world I was dead? Then you remarried and lived happily ever after? Her lips trembled. William, you don't understand. Oh, I understand perfectly. I took another step toward her, watching as she flinched. You didn't just move on, Marsha. You made sure I could never come back. Her face crumpled. I thought you were never going to get out. She froze. Too late. She had just admitted it. She had never planned for me to come back. She had made sure I was buried for good. And for the first time in 4 years, I felt something new. Pure, cold rage. The man, her new husband, finally had enough. I don't know who you are, but you need to get out. He snapped, stepping between me and Marsha. I laughed. Oh, you don't know who I am. I tilted my head. Then why is your wife shaking? He hesitated, glancing at her. She wouldn't meet his eyes. That's when I realized something. He didn't. No, she never told him. Marsha had lied to him too, and I was about to tear her world apart. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a stack of papers, official documents. I tossed them on the table. Go ahead, I said, smirking. Take a look. The man frowned, snatching them up. The second his eyes landed on the marriage certificate, my marriage certificate to Marsha, his expression shattered. What? He looked at her, stunned. What the hell is this? Marsha staggered back. I can explain, she gasped. It's not what you think. It's exactly what he thinks, I interrupted. You married him while you were still legally married to me. Her face went white, because she knew what that meant. Fraud, bigamy, a criminal offense, and now I held all the power. Marsha was trapped. I could see it in her wide, terrified eyes. I could see it in the way she clutched the edge of the table, desperately searching for a way out. But there was none, because for the first time, she was the one who had everything to lose. I leaned in, my voice barely above a whisper. You thought I was gone, Marsha. You thought you could erase me. But I'm back. Her breath hitched, and then I said the words that made her legs buckle beneath her. And I'm not leaving until I take back everything you stole. I sat in a dimly lit hotel room, staring at the legal documents spread out before me. Proof of my existence. Proof of my wife's lies. Yet none of it felt real. For 4 years, I lived inside white walls, locked doors, and whispered conversations, behind my back. For 4 years, I was called delusional, unstable, paranoid, and now, I was back in the real world. But what was real anymore? The woman I had loved had moved on. My name had been erased from society, my company, gone, my home, no longer mine. Everything I had built, everything I had sacrificed for, was stolen from me. And the worst part? No one even questioned it. No one wondered why a healthy, successful man suddenly vanished without a trace. No one checked on me. No one even missed me. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. This wasn't just betrayal. This was a burial. I closed my eyes, but the memories played like a looped nightmare. The moment the doctors strapped me down. The way they spoke to me like I was already gone. The sound of Marsha's voice soft and trembling as she lied through her teeth. It's for his own good, she had said. He's not well. He needs help. Help? She helped herself to my life. I gritted, my teeth, my breath coming in ragged, uneven bursts. I lost years of my life wasted in a place I didn't belong. I had screamed. I had fought. I had begged someone, anyone, to believe me. But no one had. Because Marsha made sure of that. She had sealed my fate with a signature. And now she was terrified that I had come back to rewrite the story. The worst part? I still remembered loving her. I still remembered the way she smiled at me on our wedding day. The way she used to rest her head on my shoulder, whispering about the future we would build. The way she once said, "No matter what happens, I'll always be by your side." lies. Every single moment, tainted, twisted, destroyed. I wanted to forget her touch. I wanted to erase every moment I had ever wasted on her. I wanted to hate her with every ounce of my being, but instead, I felt empty. Like a man who had already died, like I was still trapped inside that hospital, waiting for someone to open the door and tell me this was all a mistake. But there were no mistakes, only choices. And Marsha had made hers. Now, it was time for me to make mine. I glanced at my phone, scrolling through the contacts I never thought I'd see again. Old business partners, friends, associates, people who thought I was dead. People who had never once questioned Marsha's lies. Would they believe me? Now, would they even care? I needed to be smart. If I acted too soon, Marsha would find a way to escape again. If I acted too late, I might lose my only chance to destroy her. For now, I needed to be patient, to make her think she was still in control, to make her squirm under the weight of her own guilt. Because soon, she would feel what it's like to lose everything, just like I did. Picked up the marriage certificate with my name on it. The one that legally proved Marsha never had the right to remarry. The one that would ruin her perfect little life. I smirked, my fingers brushing over the edge of the paper. Your turn, Marsha. Let's see how it feels to have everything taken from you. The first crack in Marsha's perfect world appeared the next morning. She probably thought she had time, that she could find a way to explain things, that maybe if she played her cards right, she could still get rid of me. She was wrong, because I wasn't going to let her rewrite the story this time. I stood outside the law firm, gripping the documents in my hands, proof of my existence, proof of her lies. Proof that Marsha was still legally married to me when she remarried. Bigamy, fraud, crimes that wouldn't go unnoticed. I handed the papers to my lawyer, watching his face shift from confusion to shock to absolute disbelief. William, is this real? He whispered. It's very real. My voice was cold. And I want to make sure she pays for every second she stole from me. He nodded, his hands shaking slightly as he flipped through the documents. This case, it's going to destroy her. I know, I said, walking away. That's the point. That night, she called me. Her number flashed on my screen, the name Marsha looking so familiar yet so foreign. For a second, I debated ignoring it. Let her suffer in silence. But no, I wanted to hear her break. I answered. William. Her voice was uneven, filled with forced calmness. We need to talk. Talk? I laughed bitterly. Funny, that's exactly what I wanted to do 4 years ago, but instead you had me locked up. She inhaled sharply. I did what I thought was best for you. No, I said flatly. You did what was best for you. Silence. Then, finally, let's meet. Just us. No lawyers, no fighting. I need to see you. I smirked, knowing exactly what this was. A desperate attempt to manipulate me, to make me second-guess myself, to buy herself. Time too bad for her, I wasn't that man anymore. Fine, I said. Let's talk. We met in a quiet cafe on the other side of town. She looked different. Her once polished and perfect exterior seemed slightly cracked. Her makeup was subtle, but the faint bags under her eyes told me she hadn't been sleeping well. Good. She sat across from me, folding her hands on the table like she was trying to steady herself. William, she started softly, I know you hate me. I know what I did was unforgivable, but I had my reasons. I leaned back, arms crossed. Go ahead. Lie to me again. She flinched. But then, something changed. Her face darkened. You think you know everything, don't you? She whispered. You think I just threw you away because I wanted to marry someone richer? Because I was tired of you? I didn't respond, because I knew there was more, and I wanted to hear it. She let out a bitter laugh, running a hand through her hair. William, you were never supposed to come back. I felt the air shift. What the hell does that mean? I asked. My voice dangerously low, she met my gaze, and then she said the words that made my blood run cold. You weren't just locked away, you were supposed to disappear forever. She tried to have me killed. I gripped the edge of the table, forcing myself to stay calm. Explain. Marsha exhaled, looking around like someone might be listening. You weren't supposed to be locked up indefinitely. The doctor I worked with, the one who signed off on your commitment, he was supposed to make sure you never got out, ever. My jaw tightened. You mean, he was paid to make sure you didn't last long. William! Rage filled my veins. I had spent 4 years thinking she abandoned me, thinking she just wanted me out of the way. But this wasn't just betrayal, this was attempted murder. She looked down at her hands, her voice barely above a whisper. But something changed. He backed out. He let you live. And then he disappeared before I could stop him. She clenched her fists. I thought you'd never get out. I let out a slow breath, trying to process the weight of her confession. You tried to have me killed, I repeated, my voice hollow. She flinched but didn't deny it. I felt something shift inside me. Something darker. The game had changed. Because now it wasn't just about revenge, it was about justice. I pushed back from the table, standing up. Marsha grabbed my wrist. William. I shook her off. Save it. She wasn't getting out of this. Because now, I was going to destroy her. For good. The air was thick with tension. Marsha sat across from me, her once pristine mask shattered. She had just admitted everything. She didn't just erase me from her life. She had tried to make sure I never came back. She wanted me dead. And now, for the first time, she knew I wasn't just here to ruin her reputation. I was here to end her. Everything she built, every lie she told, every moment of false happiness. I was going to take it all, and she knew it. Her hands clenched on the table, knuckles turning white. William, please, we can fix this. I laughed, a cold, bitter sound. Fix this? I repeated, shaking my head. Marsha, you tried to have me killed. She swallowed hard. I didn't have a choice. You always had a choice. I leaned in, my voice like ice. And you made the wrong one. She looked like she wanted to say more, to twist the truth, to manipulate. But I could see it in her eyes. She had lost control. For the first time since the day she betrayed me, she was powerless, and I was about to show her what that felt like. I stood up, pulling a folder from my jacket. Her face paled the second she saw it. Legal documents, evidence, everything I needed to take her down. This, I said slowly, sliding the papers across the table, is what happens next. She hesitated before picking them up. Her eyes scanned the words, her lips moving silently as she read, her entire body stiffened. Then, her head snapped up. You wouldn't dare. I smirked. I already have. Her hands trembled as she flipped through the documents, panic creeping into her expression. A full legal case against her fraud. She had still been legally married to me when she remarried. Financial crimes. I had proof of stolen money, assets hidden under different names, attempted murder. Enough circumstantial evidence to open an investigation into the doctor she used to have me committed. Her entire life was falling apart in her hands. And then, the final page, a court order freezing her assets. Her lips parted in a silent gasp. No, this can't be real. It's very real. She lifted her eyes, her voice pleading. William, you don't have to do this. Oh, but I do. I leaned in, lowering my voice. Because I want you to know what it feels like to lose everything. She shook her head violently. I can fix this. I can make it right. You had 4 years to make it right, Marsha. Her breath hitched. Too late. The door behind me opened. 2 men in suits stepped inside. My lawyers, followed by a police officer. Her entire body went rigid. She looked at me. Her lips trembling. You called them? I didn't answer. I just watched. Watched as the officer stepped forward, holding up a warrant. Marsha Reynolds, you are under arrest for fraud, embezzlement, and falsification of legal documents. Her face drained of color. She stumbled back, gripping the edge of the table. No, 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 this isn't happening! You did this to yourself. The officer moved toward her, but she suddenly lunged for me, her nails dug into my wrist, her eyes wild with desperation. William, please, please, I was scared. I didn't know what else to do. I pulled my arm free. You knew exactly what you were doing. Tears spilled down her cheeks, but they didn't matter, because I had already suffered enough for her mistakes. The officer grabbed her arm, twisting it behind her back. The handcuffs clicked shut, and just like that, her perfect life was over, she screamed as they pulled her away. William, wait, you can't do this to me. I loved you. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just watched her fall apart. And as she disappeared through the door, one final thought filled my mind. It's over. She's finally gone. The trial moved. Fast. The evidence was overwhelming. Marsha's assets were seized. Her new husband left her. The doctor who signed my commitment order was investigated. By the end of it, she stood before the judge, her face hollow, her once perfect life nothing but ruins. You are sentenced to 10 years in prison. Her lips parted, her legs buckled, and I finally saw it. She was broken. For good. I turned away before they took her away, stepping out into the sunlight. For the first time in years, I felt free. Because now, Marsha was the one locked away, and I was the one walking away. For the final time.